Hello, everybody. This is Love from Above with your sibling spirit guides. I'm Maureen, and this is my brother.
Hey Maureen. Hey everyone, this is Brian.
Yes, we're so happy to be here. On this podcast, we share channelings we receive from star beings, ascended masters, mythical beings who really exist, and occasionally our ancestors. And today's topic, we've promised this. We've promised this, Brian. Because we've had so many channelings about Napoleon. I know we've mentioned this in previous podcasts, and we're finally getting around to talking about Napoleon.
Yeah, I know I think I was surprised at how many times he's come up over the time, um, over the last year. And so yeah, so we finally put this one together. Very interesting. So let me just jump right into it. And this is from January 29th of 2024. So going back a bit, but now we wish to turn to historical figures one once on your illustrious planet. Napoleon was picked as a project of the illustrious Saint Germain because of his quick mind. Many at the time could not comprehend the realities Saint Germain proposed, and Napoleon was quick to accept any path that would lead to his success, no matter if it was outside the bounds of what was normal. So let me pause there. What do you think of that?
It's amazing. Brian, remind me when we first learned of the correlation between Saint Germain and Napoleon. What other books is that referenced in? Can you remember?
I don't. I know we've read somewhere about that. Um, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah. Um, So, yeah, for those of you who may not be familiar with this, Saint Germain was uh was around in the French court. He was trying, why was he around? I don't remember, but we've read a number of books on this, and I can't bring them up at this time, but it is really, really interesting how, and this is true in a lot of times in history where the early Americans, as they were working to develop freedom. So it's really interesting how the ascended masters come forward to assist us at these important times.
Yep, yeah, exactly. During the Declaration of Independence, Saint Germain appeared and sort of resolved the sticking point. And but so the interesting is the working relationship between Saint Germain and Napoleon quickly deteriorated. So it's interesting. At first, it said he was all about anything that would help him get or lead to success. But then it said the relationship deteriorated. Napoleon viewed Saint Germain as unholy, being that at the time all magic was deemed as the work of demons. Um, in this way, Napoleon felt superior to the illustrious master, which was, of course, his ultimate downfall, which you could totally see. I mean, I could totally see that happening. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, apparently it was, everyone says, you never invade Russia, but apparently Saint Germain was the one who said to not invade Russia. And Napoleon went on, and that's where they parted ways. And after that, things quickly went downhill for Napoleon. So it is interesting. They go on to say that indeed it was the case that it was truly calamitous when Napoleon realized the true nature of his illustrious master. When Saint Germain departed, the sadness and the regret that he felt haunted him for the rest of his life. The exile that Napoleon had on Elba reflected his internal sense of being cut off from what had fed him for so long. Napoleon has chosen not to be reunited with this master. To this day, we look forward to their reunification. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, so it said Napoleon has not has chosen not to be reunited with the master. So is that with Saint Germain or with Source, God the Creator? That wasn't clear for me, but um I don't know. It's if he's not, I don't really understand that, but I hope, like they said, that one day they'll be unified. Which do you think it is? Do you think they're talking about Saint Germain or
Yeah, I think they're talking about Saint Germain
okay,
because I think Saint Germain is one of these ascended masters
okay.
who's committed to working with humankind, even though they've ascended to a higher level. So yeah, it's really interesting. So it's just interesting to think that Napoleon's success wasn't totally on his own. I'm sure he was, a military genius, but he also had the help of an ascended master,
Well,
which I think most people don't know.
well, we find that over time, all the super successful people are getting guidance from above, from what we've read. A lot of the, that's isn't that the case? I mean, I'm not diminishing anyone's, individual's contributions, but I think that the really historic figures have always been tuned into some higher realms to be successful, wouldn't you say?
The one that I remember, do you remember when we were reading all those Dolores Cannon books? And Dolores Cannon said that Abraham Lincoln was a walk-in. And for those of you who are not familiar with the walk-in term, is a walk-in is when, say, you're just tired with life and you just think that life is a drag and you just don't want to live anymore, then like a really highly evolved soul doesn't want to go through the whole process of being birthed and being grown up. So there's an agreement made and they will come into your physical frame. And that's what happened with Abraham Lincoln. He was a walk-in. He was like this super ascended soul. And so, isn't that interesting? So that's the one that comes to the forefront of my mind was Abraham Lincoln.
Well, and we've talked about this on other podcasts, but yeah, how there's been contact from those above through to all the past leaders of our country, and I'm sure other countries as well. So, um, yeah, it's interesting, but we got a lot of material. I'm gonna um, go on, and the next one that the next one was from March 24th of this year. It says Napoleon's reign was short but significant in that it offered an opportunity to unify the whole of Europe. The charismatic and daring figure cut through the formalities of the formal royal court and ushered in the necessity to act in the moment. Um, so yeah, I was just, as I was saying earlier, I don't know if everyone's read a lot about Napoleon there. I know there was also just recently a big biography film on him on Apple TV, and but he's just a fascinating figure, and it's interesting how we have so many different um, times that we've got information about Napoleon.
Yeah, and so then I'll continue. The next session that we wanted to cover was on March 28th of this year, and it was from a group of beings that we first received information from called Aura. And it said, now we turn our attention to Napoleon. You may wonder why Napoleon continues to be referenced in these sessions, which you do daily. Yeah, I did wonder why Napoleon's come up again and again and again. Napoleon was indeed a great human figure who changed the course of history. However, there are personal correlations that you and your brother have with a revered general. Brian, what are those? I am unaware of this. This way, we reference this relationship so you may see the dominant impact that another can have on your life. The Napoleonic Code was an important step forward with regards to the legal systems in your country. So yeah, I don't even know what the Napoleonic Code is. Do you want to go over what that is?
Yeah, but before we do, I mean, yeah, I'm not aware of our correlation we have with the Revere General Napoleon, so that's interesting. But somehow in a prior life, I'm not sure how, but somehow we have some sort of relationship there. But anyway, I didn't know. I looked this up too. So the Napoleonic Code is equality before the law. So this is the big thing. So it's not based on your social class. So if you're not it's not based on, in other words, royalty. If you were, you know, born into a certain family, you have a certain rights or something. So it's all are equal. Separation of powers, so the executive, legislative, and judicial, uniformity of law, secularism, so separating the church and state, protecting private property, um, so I mean, all these things, it sounds like were like the formation of the United States, and I thought our forefathers came up with all these, but it's actually Napoleon. So that was interesting. The only thing it said when I was doing the research, it said, um, you know, Napoleonic Code had a profound impact on the development of law in Europe and beyond. It was adopted or influenced the legal systems of many countries, including Belgium, Italy, and the United States. However, it also had some limitations, such as its patriarchal nature and its exclusion of women from certain rights. But really interesting. Did not know all of that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. And it does sound very much like, the laws that we live under. So, who knew that we had to thank Napoleon for that? I didn't.
Yep,
Uh, so yeah. But I will go back to like what we have in common with Napoleon. I think the only thing that we have in common is our connection with Saint Germain. So Saint Germain is someone that we hear from not on a regular basis, but occasionally. Um, and so aren't we fortunate to have that connection with that illustrious master?
yeah, absolutely. So just wrapping this up on Napoleon, they said much has to be admired at the time. If Napoleon had not moved so swiftly, these times may indeed be different. So think about that. Does that mean like, we'd still be under, you know, monarchies and things like that, not um in a democracy? So that's something to really ponder. We look at this brilliant but short reign as an example to savor this moment, not to hurry to the destination and enjoy where you are on the path. Indeed, we have an important role with the Napoleonic times. This is a bond that must be severed. So it's talking about how this is where I think if you want to go into this, there was something that you had some connection to these times that they wanted you to cut the cord, right?
Yeah, which I didn't really understand, and I don't really remember because when was this channel like March of this
Yeah,
year? But yeah, I did do cut the cord, and then that's interesting because we used to get so many channelings on Napoleon, and I don't think we've gotten one since then.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah, so there was some kind of bond between who knows, Brian. I don't want to go through the past lives. For those of you listed uh our past lives in Egypt were not so glorious. I don't know if I want to look at the Napoleonic past life. But yeah, that is interesting. I'm just putting that together. I mean, we used to hear about the one that I remember that is not included in this session. Do you remember when they said that there's, all sorts of different timelines, but all the different timelines that there's certain fixed points, and all the timelines include Napoleon.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah.
no matter what timeline you're on, Napoleon was in your past. So That's fascinating, you
Yeah,
know.
I did see that, and I didn't. That's right, because what they said. Now that I do recall this, it was really interesting because they said um they were trying to. I don't know what entities were trying to get Napoleon out of history, like try and remove him from history because he had such impact. But he's such a force that it wasn't possible. And I don't understand that, but in the different timelines. But they said that he's such a just enormous force that yeah, it's a fixed point and he is part of all timelines. Or maybe I've
Yeah.
read that, I'm not sure, but I do recall that now that you mention it.
Yeah, no, it was something that we channeled. I definitely remember that because I remember that being, again, when I'm channeling this stuff, it's kind of like I'm in a dreamland, but something like that comes through and I'm like, what? I perk up and yeah, so that's fascinating. So let's close this off. Brian, you found a great quote that who would think this is associated with Napoleon Bonaparte?
I know. Uh, I know this is not one, but I did look through a bunch of quotes and then I found this. I was like, wow, this sounds like something perfect for our podcast. So I'm surprised it came from Napoleon, but he said, the best cure for the body is a quiet mind. So
That could be Wayne Dyer, Grom Doss. I would
I
not
know.
guess it to be Napoleon Bonaparte. But there you have it. So, yeah. So thank you everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, bye everyone.